Iraqi special forces captured a new neighborhood from ISIS terrorists today. A senior Iraqi commander says the area in eastern Mosul was fully liberated and is now flying the Iraqi flag. The announcement comes hours after an ISIS attack overnight against Iraqi forces in southeastern Mosul. An Iraqi official says that strike inflicted heavy losses but provided no additional details. In his final major national security address, President Obama said yesterday that his counterterrorism strategy has broken the back of ISIS. Monday, my colleague Brett Baer talked about ISIS with the chancellor of the Kurdistan Regional Security Council. He says ISIS in Iraq is far from broken.
I think it will be a long battle. This is what we expected from the beginning. Mosul is the last battlefield for ISIS in Iraq, and it's the capital of the Islamic State. And we don't think that they're going to give it up easily. And as they're closing in to the center of the city, we see that how fierce ISIS is fighting back. In fact, they've been using many different tactics to slow down the progress and the advancement of the Iraqi troops.
Like what?
And, you know, digging tunnels, using snipers, using IEDs, using VBIEDs, using drone IEDs.
ISIS is using drone improvised explosive devices?
Exactly. They've used it effectively against our forces in the past. And if you're familiar with the city of Mosul, it's divided in two halves. You know, you have the eastern bank and the western bank, the Tigris River running right through it. The eastern bank, which is currently most of the fightings are happening, was predominantly inhabited by the Kurds and Christians and Arabs, in fact. Many of those people fled before the fighting. It's the western side of the city that is narrow streets and alleys and more difficult, and many of the sympathizers actually came from the western side. So right now all this fighting is happening on the east side, and we do expect that once the fight goes to the west, it becomes even more difficult. So it's very hard to speculate exactly when this fight will end or Mosul will be completely liberated. The fighting force on the ground were Peshmergas that not only stopped ISIS, but they pushed them back and helped to defeat ISIS. Now, you know, they are isolated in the city of Mosul and Tal Afar. And all of this happened when we were only using a very light weapons and very poorly armed. All of our arms were captured from the previous regimes or obsolete. And unfortunately, the level of support that we expected from the international coalition for the Peshmergas,
including the US,
including the United States, like I said, we appreciated the support, but what we expected, we never received. We believed that the Kurds should have been armed with much more heavy equipment, with more protective gears, which we could have minimized our casualties. Let me just tell you that we have lost about 1,500 Peshmergas in this fight, and more than 10,000 Peshmergas have been wounded. If we had better equipment, just imagine if you would send your own sons and daughters to the battlefield. How would you like them to be equipped and protected? It's the same for us.
If ISIS is eventually defeated there, the real question is governance after that. What does that look like?
You have people of different religious and ethnic backgrounds. With all these different components, there has to be some sort of an agreement or understanding about the future governing of the province or guarantees about the security and the stability of the province as a whole. Unfortunately, that was postponed, and no agreement was reached.
For the Kurds, there has long been this desire, it seems, for independence, and the Obama administration has treated the situation very strictly as a one Iraq policy, going through everything through Baghdad. Are you hoping that somehow that changes in a Trump administration?
We think that this is a God-given right to the Kurdish people like every other nation. Why should the Kurds be deprived of this right that every other nation take it for granted? But we are also realistic, and we want to do it in a way that is peaceful, sustainable, and that we can live in peace with our neighbors, and also to make sure that what we do is going to last for our peoples.
Do you want to invite the U.S. to have a base there?
Well, we wouldn't mind, but of course, as a as an independent state, we would have more liberty to make those decisions. We have to have a mechanism in place that prevent the abuse of power by someone who may like to take control of everything.